tell somebody whenever they want to get into photography, like to start with? I have a niece that she wants to learn to be a photographer, and so she finally started following me on Instagram. And she doesn't really post a whole lot of her photography work on Instagram because she's real self-conscious about what she does, but she doesn't really have any gear. And so she started asking me questions the other day about, well, how do I start? You have to teach me how to be a photographer. That's kind of a strange question to answer, especially since I've only been doing this for like 2 years. So what do you guys usually tell somebody whenever, or do people ask you? And if they do, what do you tell them?
I don't think I've ever had anybody ask me how to be a photographer. I mean, you always get people who ask the question, like you said, all the time, like, "Hey, what do I do? What settings do you use?" And that's like the fun question is the settings question. It's like, what the heck? I don't freaking know. Like, what the heck are you shooting? Like, how you
Right.
suggest that?
So
I figured.
I think
All right.
for people who ask us, at least when people ask me that question, because sometimes I'll get that at work, because everybody at work knows that I'm a photographer. I usually ask them, what do they want to shoot? And let's start there. Like, do they want to shoot people? Do they want to shoot landscapes? Do they want to shoot like scenes, like a movie scene, or
Right.
like something that tells a story? And then base everything else around that. So like if you're working with people, you don't necessarily need like a 400 millimeter lens. You want like something between 50 and 135 that'll frame the face nicely and stuff like that. And then you want to think about like what kind of portraiture do you want to do, or what kind of landscapes you want to do, and then like you can narrow all those things down from there. Especially for us being street photographers, we do a little bit of all of it anyways. We have a little bit of input on all of those things, so like you can kind of break it down.
Right.
As far as what gear to choose first,
Oh, that's a whole
whatever
other.
you have on you. Use a cell phone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for now.
Right.
Yeah. But then like base your gear choices on what you decide to shoot. So if like Jalissa does really good portraits, you don't need a full frame camera to do that. You can kill it with a crop sensor camera. You could probably kill it with like a micro four thirds with a Fuji. It's more about how you frame your subject than the tool that you use for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, in the case of my niece, that was kind of the deal was, well, how I actually started was because I know that she had taken pictures and she used a cell phone. So I just told her, pick 5 or as many as you can of your best images or whichever ones that you think are the best, and then send them to me and I'll take a look at them. And that way I have an idea of what you're dealing with here. Because like you said, I don't know if she's taking portraits or landscape, or I had no idea what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sends me these pictures and they're all landscapes and they're actually really good. And I noticed in a couple of them that some of the compositions weren't great, but they had a really good direction. So I decided that in that particular case that I would just start talking to her a little bit about just like composition rules, like real simple rule, like the rule of thirds specifically. That way she can at least put a little thought into what she's going to do next time she goes out to take a picture with her phone. And specifically to the point of using cell phones, told her to turn on the grid on the back of her phone so she could actually see to line up the thing. So that's kind of where I started with her. I just thought it was interesting that I got asked that question because I actually never even considered it, because my own journey was I didn't ask people how to do anything. I had a cell phone and I was like, I'm going to start taking pictures. And so I just YouTube videos of people taking pictures with a cell phone to try to figure out how to make that better. And then it just kind of evolved. So I was like, this is how I'm teaching people or telling other people how to do it too, because that's my experience with it.
Right.
I think that's a good way to say it, because whenever I started, the whole basis of my photography was supposed to be anything, like all candid things. So I picked up a camera I bought off a friend of mine a couple years back and never messed with it. And then one day I decided, just let me just have it on me. And what I ended up doing is I started just taking pictures of random people I saw, moments and things. Y'all know I like taking pictures of people holding hands and stuff like that. So that was that foundation, but I didn't know that I would evolve to like past that. I mean, I still love it and I'll go back to it from time to time, but I mean, now I'm doing just about almost I've touched because of y'all. I mean, I've touched just about every type of photography there is. I mean, I've taken some landscapes. I've done weddings. I've done social events, portraits. Haven't done real estate yet, but I mean, it just goes to show that you can begin anywhere, especially in photography, and you don't know where you'll end up. And because she's young, she's just getting to the game now. She might do landscapes now, and I mean, take pictures of that. But then again, she doesn't know if that might be where she ends off at. But I guess the best thing you could just say is just take pictures of what you like. If you see something interesting, take a picture of it. Look at it later. See how it makes you feel. And then you'll just build off of that. So
that was pretty much the advice. I know she wants to do more portraits, and I'd sent her a couple of pictures that I'd taken, portrait photos that I had taken, and she's like, "Oh wow, I really want to do stuff like that." But I don't want to get into that conversation with her yet because that starts down the slippery slope of gear.
Hey,
so,
she thinks all about that.
She doesn't have money, so like I know what's up.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think that's the most exciting part about being a new photographer, though, is like finding out what you like to do. Like the photography is literally infinite with the amount of things that you can do and take pictures of. Like if you can think about it, you can probably take a picture of it in some form or fashion. You may have to figure out how to do it, but like being a beginner photographer, I think is the most fun thing, is like figuring out what you like to do and trying every single thing until you get to it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when I started, I think what happens is, like, since she's taking pictures of like a lot of landscapes, like initially, I guess it depends on the type of person you are, but you kind of just go out and do whatever you feel is easy, I guess, because it's easy to go out and just take pictures of anything. And then you build up, because for me, I had to build up the confidence to go out and start meeting other people and feeling like, oh, I want to take pictures of other people. Because at first it was just always, at one point I was like, I don't need a person in my picture. Like, why do I need people in my picture? And then I start realizing the whole, if you have someone in your picture, it like adds to it. And so now I'm like, when I take like a landscape, I'm like, man, this would look really good if like a person was right here. But
I don't know. I still find that people I can do without them sometimes in photos.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it has to be interesting enough, I guess, to where you don't even need a person. But
I think just my curiosity. I think because back in school, I studied a lot of psychology, especially behaviorism. So whenever I'm watching a person from afar, I'm just so fascinated on like, what they're potentially thinking about, what they look like, what are they doing in that specific time. So I snap a picture of it, and hopefully, what the story of my photos are saying is, makes you want to think as well, like, oh, who's this person? Like, what are they doing in that specific spot? They could be doing this, they could be doing that. So just something to make you think. So if I'm able to convey that through my photography, then I feel like I'm doing something.
Yeah.
So what about Justin? Like, what was Justin's first foray into photography? Like, what made you want to do it?
All right, so that's a story for another time.
Oh wow! Everybody get a whole big
overview.
Like,
everybody was kind of just like, kind of give a basic, like, Jaleesa started with some landscapes, and
I could tell you what I started out doing. How I got started in the first place, though, is it's a little bit more of a personal story. Something I'm not really ready to share with the world just yet.
Sure.
But as far as the pictures I started to take, I tried to do still life photography for a little bit. I was using a point and shoot that my parents had got for like when they went to Hawaii to take photos. It was just a super basic, like 7x zoom, I think like 8 megapixel point and shoot. Really not the greatest camera. Like my cell phone literally takes better pictures than that already. But
what is still life for those?
Still life is basically like if you had an ass, I've been able to tell you. Think of like you can picture this in your head. It's a table with a bowl of oranges on it and some bananas, and it's the capturing of the light and the way that it plays on those objects.
Oh, that's what still life is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually didn't know. So I was like, you know,
I'm laughing at everyone's
yeah, tell us more
surprise
about
at
it.
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's more like you could call it product photography, but it's more like the fine art version of that. I was trying to figure out how to get bokeh in the background because with a point and shoot made for tourist snapshots, it's not exactly designed to have a large aperture and get a nice depth of field. So I spent several months taking pictures of cigarettes and beer bottles, trying to get a blurry background because I just could not figure it out.
Gotta get super close.
Yeah, so turns out the trick is to stand far away and zoom into it. And that'll blur out the background. But like, I can't tell you how many thousands of images I took and deleted that were like just a cigarette butt burning in an ashtray. Like it wasn't even anything interesting. But I started that, and then I started taking that camera everywhere I went because I got frustrated with that process. So I went to YouTube and found Peter McKinnon's photo hacks, and I was like, oh, composition, what is that?
Right.
Straight lines. Okay. So in the parking lot at work, I would take pictures of the shopping carts in the cart corrals, just trying to get like leading line images in the parking lot because like just trying to develop that skill. And then I got quickly fascinated with the people that were walking through the parking lot, and I was like, oh, I like taking pictures of people now. Right. And I'd taken like a couple of long exposures of the building and posted them on Instagram, and my brother found them, and he was like, hey, I've got a camera for you if you want one. I was like, a real camera? And he was like, yeah. And he gave me my first Canon XSI with a 50 millimeter lens and like a 100 to 200. And yeah, I went off with that. I went and bought a tripod and started doing long exposures of the cars passing under the bridge near my apartment. And yeah, you can still see those on Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah, mine. I got my little D3-100, my little 10-year-old camera. It actually had barely been used because I guess whoever had it wasn't using it for shit. So, I mean, and I think I told the story a million times. My ex used to work at a tow yard, and they take people's stuff out of their cars, and if they don't come and get it, they can keep it. So and she was like, I'm going to sell this camera. And I was like, why don't you give it to me? You owe me some money. So I kept the camera. It didn't have a battery, so we really didn't know if it worked, but I ordered a battery off Amazon, put it in there, and it came on. It had an SD card already. Nothing was on it. And it was like brand new. I was like, I don't know what's on this SD card. But it might as well have been like brand new. I think I looked at the shutter count, and it was like 1,000 or something like that. Like they had never used it, and it's like an old ass camera.
So what you're telling us, you are in possession of some stolen goods.
It's not stolen.
Aren't we all in some form or fashion?
Maybe, depending on who you bought it from.
Just give me a quick 5.
Buy from eBay and stuff, you never know.
Yeah, well, so whenever I was about 13 or 14, I had got a Polaroid camera for my birthday, and so I tried to start taking pictures then, but it was more of a novelty. Like I didn't really take it seriously. And then whenever I was in high school, I would buy, every time I would go out to do anything, I would go to Walmart and I would buy a disposable camera. And then I would just take pictures of everything and then drop the camera back off at Walmart and have them develop it. And then it was always a crapshoot of what you would get. And again, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just taking pictures of everything at this point. And then my mom had taken a photography class in college, like when she was an adult. She just went to sign up for a class and just paid for that separate because she wanted to do photography. So I'd kind of had some exposure to a more serious form of it, but I didn't really give it too much. I mean, I was a teenager. I wanted to do teenager stuff. So, and it wasn't until like maybe 2.5 years ago at this point, I started just taking pictures of things that I liked with my cell phone. And then I did that for a while and then got to the point where, because, they kept giving you those advertisements. So Samsung updated their camera so you can take higher resolution images, and iPhone updated their camera and you can get better this and pixels that and processing this. And it just kind of became this whole big thing. So you start like kind of geeking out about the camera on your cell phone. And then so just through that process, I just wanted to learn how to take that and then take a better picture. And so you learn composition, kind of like your Peter McKinnon reference there, Justin, where I went on and was just like, how do I do this? And kind of got there. And then after I did that for 6 months, I bought my first actual real camera. So
yeah. So how long did it take y'all to get out of auto on your camera?
On my actual camera, I never used auto.
Yeah, never. Oh,
I think I
can't hear Justin.
Maybe a couple. I look up at my mic like Justin. I can't hear. Oh wait, never mind. No. Good. Sorry, your mic's off.
Okay.
Yeah, never used auto on any of my cameras ever.
Really? Damn.
Oh, y'all just go like that.
I take that back. I might have used it on my cell phone until I figured out that I didn't have to do that. And yeah, I've always used manual. I just like having control of things.
On the cell phone, I still use whatever auto mode it is, but I do focus lock in and I change the exposure. But I don't go as far as like trying to tweak everything else too far out. I mean, it's a cell phone. The reason that I would use it would be for more snapshot type images. So I don't worry about it too much. But I've on either of my other 2 DSLRs, I've never ever used auto mode.
Yeah. You can't really use you can't mess with the aperture anyway, really, on phones. Do they have that now yet?
Some phones, yeah.
My Samsung does. It's got a 1.5 and a 2.5 on the back facing camera.
Okay. I shot in auto for a bit though when we went on that trip.
I'll be honest and say I shot auto too, just in case these other pros.
It was only for a trip though, because when I got the camera, I didn't even get a chance to use it. It was like the 2 days. 2 days later, we were getting ready to go to where were we going? To Florida, and I was trying to hurry up and get the battery, so I didn't even get a chance to use it. I was like, oh, let me hurry up and get this battery from Amazon, so when we go out there, I can use it. So when I went out there, it was my first time using it, and of course, I put it in auto. But when I got back home, I learned how to actually use it.
So same thing for me. I mean, just like Justin, I like having control of things. So after I was starting to like read, I mean, I probably used auto a couple times for like some like quick fix. I don't know my camera yet type situations. But after like sitting down for like maybe a week or so, and learning like each of the modes. I mean, I've never used aperture. I've never used the
shutter priority,
sport mode or stuff like that. Shutter priority, yeah. So looking at those, I was like, and then when I came across manual, so the camera I had at the time, I can't remember what it was, XTI or something like that. I looked up the little pamphlet and it was given the description of manual. Say, oh, you'll be able to control every little thing. And I'd be like, ooh, I can? Alrighty. So I was like, okay, well, let me try to learn and figure out everything. And understanding the triangle thing took probably the longest ever. I mean, some days whenever we're at a TFP or something, I'm still trying to take maybe 10, 15 minutes trying to figure out, okay, what setting am I about to use? Okay, but, you know, having to switch back and keep in mind, okay, this thing's changing, so I need to adjust such and such. So that's still kind of like, I guess, part of the learning curve. But manual is my all time now. But Since y'all mentioned it, what is the cameras that everybody uses so people know?
I'm the only Sony shooter here. Everybody else is Canon. I use the A6400.
My 5D Mark III is mostly what I use.
I shoot with Canon EOS R. I shoot with a Canon AE1, and then
Fancy.
I shoot with the Mamiya RB67. There we go.
And I have my SL2, bought from Mr. Justin himself, as well as my backup is my Canon T4i, T5i. I have one of them.
Yeah, that's
so,
what what you're looking at me on is my T7i.
Oh, really? Okay, nice. I've grown to love the spinny back camera panel thing.
Isn't that a blessing?
So any version camera that I get in the future, whenever I decide to put down the T4i, is I need to have that. I need to have that feature. I feel like that's just like one of the things I just like. Allows me to do those very, very low angles without me having to get down the actual ground. So I appreciate that. Appreciate it.
That's the thing I miss about shooting film.
You like
that
dirty?
screen.
So what else we got
before
today?
we jump too far off the topic, I would just like to note that personally, I don't consider using a priority mode setting on a camera as auto mode. Because if you set it shutter priority or aperture priority, you're still having to run manual in some other aspects of that. And I do find that shooting night street photography, having some settings in a priority mode make it a little bit easier for all the dynamic situations that you find yourself in. You don't have to spend as much time trying to dial everything in so hard.
Yeah.
Use it at night?
I've on the T7i, because there's a specific point in which you probably shouldn't raise the ISO. I always would lock the ISO on that one, and then I would change the aperture to set it to aperture priority, and then only adjust the shutter speed. Shooting with that camera at night. It's a little bit different shooting with a full frame at night than it is shooting with that. So it's I don't have to use the priority modes as often on it, but with the crop sensor, I definitely did.
I like using aperture priority too. During the day though, at night it gets annoying. I only use it because in the daytime you have plenty of light, and if it's going to choose your shutter speed, then you know it's not going to be too slow. So half the time it might not even go under 500. So it's like, okay, well, I'm good.
Right. And I did take some photos when I was in New Orleans. I did take some photos with shutter priority just because I knew there were going to be people walking around, and I did a lot of research on like what an average shutter speed of catching slight movement is, whatever. It's like 250th of a second or whatever. So I would do shutter priority at 1/250th of a second, and then open the aperture all the way up and set it to 1600 ISO.
Since you brought that up, when you usually do some of your like shoot or shots or whatnot, if it's people, what's the minimum shutter speed that you keep yourself at? Because I find myself trying to go as low as possible, but then I always remember, since I'm always in the back of everything, candid, I want to be able to quickly catch those moments. So I'm usually keeping myself about like 250, but I was like, can I go any slower than that and still be able to catch those moments?
I shoot at 125.
Yeah, it depends on what people are doing. Like, if you got people walking by fast and shit, then yeah, you want to make sure. But if you're like shooting portraits, then you can control what the hell they're doing. Like, hey, stand still. I can shoot at like, if I'm shooting with like a 50, I can probably get away with shooting like at a 50th of a second if they just stand still.
Well, if you're using flash and things like that, like the flash will freeze it. You don't have to worry about the shutter speed as much anyway. So
yeah.
See, I've never understood that. So flash, I don't move the shutter speed at all.
You still do, but it's not going to, like, the motion blur is less prevalent in flash because it's only exposed for the instant that the light's on.
I'm learning things. Look, I'm learning things here.
So it helps when you have more light,
So I'll put the flash and it stops that. So then now I'm able to, does ISO matter at all whenever you're using a flash? because I turn it up just so I can see through my view screen. Or
It
whatever.
will.
Because sometimes
It'll
doesn't
make
show.
your picture brighter. I mean, from what I've heard or what I know is when you change your aperture and your ISO, it changes the exposure of the whole photo. So if you take your aperture number down, it's gonna bring your exposure up the whole photo. Your ISO up is gonna bring the exposure from the whole photo.
Mhm.
But your shutter speed, when you start messing with your shutter speed, it only controls the ambient light. So if you have your shutter speed at a certain number and you take it up, it's gonna make the background darker. If you make it lower, it's gonna make the background brighter. Does that? I don't know how it works like that, but
Okay. No, I got.
I don't know exactly why it's like that, but yeah. Because if let's say you're shooting and she's bright, well, let's say she's how you want her or he, and the background is a little too bright, and you're like, okay, what do I need to do? Just turn your shutter speed up, and then it'll make the background a little darker.
Okay.
Fascinating. I learned something today too.
Knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your shutter speed controls the way the background looks.
So I guess this would be the moment where I say I am a natural light
Yeah.
photographer. I was like, I use flash every so often, but I have not gotten to a point where I even understand. I just like do a couple shots, keep adjusting the power, and be like, all right, I
Yeah.
think this looks
I'm about the same.
workable. So
Play
I mean,
around with it
I've
until
gotten
it
better,
works.
but yeah,
She says
But
better.
now that you
She's
know
probably
that-
the best one here.
whatever. Now that you know that, then you know that, okay, if the person is too bright, then it's the flash, or if they're too dark, it's the flash. But if my background is a certain way, then I need to change my shutter speed. But that's also why you turn your flash trigger off and you expose for how you want the background to look initially, and then you turn your trigger on and you add flash.
I always forget about that.
Oops.
Yeah, no, I do it too.
And it's funny enough, I tell people the exact same thing, but then I don't
I do
ever
it too.
do it.
I do it all the time, and I'm like, damn, let me turn this damn thing off because. But yeah, it's yeah, or you can move the light forward and back. I mean, whatever.
Right.
Cool.
All right.
There we go.
So anything else?
I got a
today?
question for y'all. I got a couple actually. So the first one that I've got is, what are you trying to say with your work, and why is it important?
I guess
I'll
that's kind
go.
of a hard.
I'll
That's a
go.
hard question.
So for me, all I want to do is take a photo of something that makes me feel good. So I'm not necessarily trying to tell a story for someone else, but rather I want to capture something that is personal to me, I guess. So whenever I take a photo of something and I really like it, if I spend enough time on it and trying to edit it and make it look a certain way, it's because I want to feel something when I look at it. So I hope that other people feel something similar to that, but that's not why I take it.
Sure. Valentin?
Here's your listen. Okay. No, like I was saying before, I mean, I see the way I view some of my photos. You know, I want to be able to tell some form of a story within it. So if I feel like what I take and to myself, I can visualize a story that I was thinking in my mind, or at least something to spring up a thought, then I feel like I've done a good job. So my idea is to hopefully just put it out there, and hopefully that same person, they might not even see the same thing that I see, but if I can just capture a moment where they can look at it and it just brings up ideas and just makes them feel something. They could hate it, they could love it, it could disturb their energy, so it doesn't matter. But if it does something to them, then I've done my job. So
Okay.
Those booty pics, nobody wants to see those.
Now, come on, somebody felt something.
So,
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a hard question for me because I take pictures of every damn thing. Like every time someone brings up a certain type of photography, I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. Try that out. So I guess that's kind of a hard one for me. But street photography is a little bit more towards the whole like feeling type of thing for me, because you go out, like you said, or you're looking and you're walking around, even when you don't have your camera, you see someone or something interesting, or someone walking out of a building, and you're like, that'd be a good picture. But that's kind of a hard question for me, actually. What do you want people? How do you want people to feel about your images? Because I really don't give a shit. I just want to like it for myself, so I'll post it no matter what. I mean,
what I'm saying, yeah, like
Sure.
it's not that I don't care that other people don't like it, but yeah, I do it for me.
Mm-hmm. I want to look at it. So
Jalissa shows up. Jalissa shows up to a spot, takes bomb ass pictures.
Right, but she only does it for herself.
And she steals the spotlight. So
whatever.
Next episode, we're gonna talk about how you're messing up.
I'm messing up the market. See, what's funny is y'all say all that stuff, but I'm still like y'all because I don't like putting myself out there and stuff like that. I did find something out today though, the how to get on Google reviews and stuff. You know how you pull up businesses and you can put reviews and stuff like that. I always thought that was like an ad thing, like you had to pay for that to have your that come up like that, but apparently you just download My Business or something, like Google My Business, and like on Play Store.
Out here spending
on Play Store or Apple. And then when you pull it up, you can type in what your business name is and all that stuff, and then it'll allow people to put reviews on Google for you where your name pop up in Google.
Nice.
Or whatever.
Cool.
Wait, so this will be on your website itself? Like, could this be on your Facebook page or
This is
something?
a Google review, right?
Yeah, it's like Google review, like
when
Yelp
you Google
too,
a business or whatever on
and
on
it pops
Google,
up.
and it pops up, it'll give you like what your rating is and whatever reviews are down there.
Yeah, like people can rate you, they can see your reviews, and they can see your website from there and click on website or call you, whatever, see your pictures just straight up on Google. But it depends if you have like a website where you can add stuff like that, because I know some websites have it to where you can add certain things in there and add.
So you can technically go on there and tell somebody if they're trash?
Yep.
That's the only
so
thing.
let's all bomb Val's page and tell him how wonderful of a photographer he is.
No, this was supposed to be go like
I was talking about the other Val.
What's your link again?
Yeah, I gotta wait. I gotta wait for mine, because apparently when you do it, they send you a pin code in the mail, and then you type it in, and then it activates it. So I have to wait.
Oh, so you got time.
Yeah, you gotta wait for it. I think Val has his up. If you type in "sweet shots" now, I think it'll pop up in Google.
Yeah, it does.
Well, just don't look up any of my previous employers and what I've written on some of those reviews.
We'll make sure to not do that.
Yeah.
Let's just say there's at least one 1-star review.